The Highland Cattle is among the more popular animal choices in the Barnyard animal pack, yet it has sparked quite a debate among fans of this iconic Scottish breed. Many people feel that the in-game model ended up being much smaller than it should be. But is that really the case? I too have noticed that they do appear very small. When you see them next to a human in Planet Zoo, something feels off. So when I first started to plan this video, I expected to conclude that these guys must be too small. However, it isn't really that simple of an answer. The thing with domestic breeds is that some of them comes in various size categories, similar to dog breeds like the poodle. This is also the case with the Highland Cattle. They are recognized in various size ranges, standard, mid-size and miniature, with some sources even dividing them into additional categories. This information might help explain why the cattle ended up being this small in Planet Zoo. To investigate this further, I measured 3 cows and 3 bulls of Highland Cattle in Planet Zoo, ranging in sizes of 0, 50 and 100, so we cover the full size range here. The results seems to fit quite well with the size information we can find in the Zoopedia. The wall piece I'm using here is 1 meter high. The smallest cow seems to be around 90 centimeters or so, while the tallest goes slightly above the wall, making it more or less fit with 1 meter and 5 centimeters. The mid-size individual falls somewhere in between. Similarly, the smallest bull measures just above 1 meter, roughly fitting with 1 meter and 5 centimeters, while the largest is what I assume is around 1 meter and 20 centimeters. Now the question is how these fits with real life. The size range for the bull matches very well with those shown for what is the mid-size variation. However, the sources here do not specify if this is supposed to cover both males and females. So it seems like the cattle in Planet Zoo are proportioned after the mid-size version of the breed, even though it's not stated anywhere. The mid-size version is smaller than the standard size, which is the one many people assumed this cattle was supposed to be. Standard size should be above 1 meter and 20 centimeters, so the 100 size individuals only just reaches the bare minimum. Now I wonder if this was done on purpose. We have seen before that Frontier has based animal designs on specific subspecies without acknowledging it in the game. The takin is a good example of this. People familiar with takins will recognize that the coloration of the in-game takin matches that of the Szechuan takin. Yet in Planet Zoo it is simply just called takin. If we go to ArtStation, pictures of the takin model have been uploaded by one of the designers where it is described as being the Szechuan takin. Another example is the moose. In Planet Zoo we just know it as moose, while on ArtStation it is described as the Alaskan moose, which would also explain the size of the antlers of the moose. So this could very well be the case with the cattle. They could have based it on a specific branch of the breed and then just ignored this fact in the game. Some make the argument that it makes good sense to go with one of the smaller variation of the cattle, since it would fit better into petting zoos. But if we look at the other breeds of livestock chosen for this pack, this doesn't seem like something Frontier considered all that much, especially when they went with a larger breed of goat, when the most common petting zoo goat, the African pygmy goat, is known for its small size. This very much speaks against that logic. I'm more likely to think this was a result of using the wrong sources. The exact size ranges for Highland cattle can vary quite a lot depending on where you look, but the size range described in the Zoopedia is almost exactly the same as the size described on Wikipedia. In the Zoopedia it says 1.05 instead of Wikipedia's 1.06, but I think this might have been changed to get some cleaner numbers. But the information we can see on Wikipedia doesn't really make sense. While it uses this description here, it will elsewhere claim the average height to be 1.25 meters, which is 5 centimeters taller than the highest end of the typical size range. Something doesn't add up. Luckily, you can look up the sources on Wikipedia, making the information easier to trust. The average height is taken from this website, which is an organization run by the United Nations. But when we then try to look up the sources for this claim, we can see that there is no source to be found. So which information seems the most valid to you? I would probably go with the United Nations one, and therefore we can't use this size range. But we know this size fits the mid-size cattle, so I would assume whoever wrote this has used the mid-size variation to describe the typical cattle, which would be of the standard breed. A standard Highland cattle at its smallest should be where the mid-size is at its largest. This way our current 100% animals should become the 0%. But if Frontier intentionally went for the mid-size breed or smaller, then it would be nice if they would at least acknowledge it somewhere. That could be in the name or the Wikipedia, or even just in a post somewhere on the internet. Then we could end this discussion and see the animal for what it is, even if we would have liked it to be different. So what is the conclusion to all of this? Is the Highland cattle too small? If you assume the Planet Zoo cattle is supposed to be of the standard kind, then yes, they're too small. But if you see the Highland cattle as any type of Highland cattle, then no, they're not unrealistically small, since variations of the Highland cattle within these sizes do exist. But when nothing else is stated, then I believe most people do in fact assume these are of the standard kind. That would only make sense. And the sizes we got in Planet Zoo are not a match for a standard Highland cattle. Therefore I think the only right thing to do would be to make these animals bigger. What do you think? Are you happy with the Highland cattle as it is, or do you agree that it should be made bigger? Let me know below.